Philip Ludwell III's home was Green Spring, located 13 miles outside of Williamsburg. On December 28, 1716, he was born at this Tidewater plantation, which had become part of his family's story when his grandfather married the powerful widow Lady Berkeley. Green Spring wasn't just historically integral as the former estate of Governor William Berkeley, it had also been the meeting place from 1676 to 85 of Virginia's governing assemblies after all of Jamestown's state houses burned during Bacon's Rebellion. It was an aristocratic culture into which Ludwell was thrust, and one in which there were rules of conduct for each person's civic roles and family responsibilities. These traditions didn't come out of thin air. They were instilled in Virginians in an effort to hang on to the ways of the mother country. In keeping with those values, Virginia's Anglicans saw attending church as a devotional act. Liturgies were short and homilies even shorter, with each gathering followed by a grand after-service feast. To these little O Orthodox Anglicans, faith was more about communal but quiet devotion, as opposed to the lecture-heavy sermons of the Puritans. These early Virginians were a practical and economic people, no less religious than their Puritan counterparts. Only they were rooted in the land and looked to history and custom rather than reason, emotion, or revelation as their political guide, explains educator Alan Mendenhall. According to the Encyclopedia of Virginia, the Virginia Company of London took seriously their obligation to provide for the religious instruction and solace of the colony settlers, and continued to assist in supporting Jamestown's religious life up until the company's dissolution in 1624, when Virginia then became a royal colony. But it wasn't until 1619 that the Church of England was formally established by the House of Burgesses and prescribed penalties for violating the moral laws of Scripture. Our Ludwell was the son of an influential burgess, grandson of the first royal governor of Carolina, a cousin of Martha Washington, and sister to Hannah Harrison Ludwell, who, along with her husband Thomas Lee, the great uncle of Robert E. Lee, built Stafford Hall, where some of you visited yesterday. Shortly after his graduation from William and Mary and his marriage to Frances Grimes, herself a granddaughter of a governor of Virginia, Ludwell traveled to London, where he was received through chrismation into the Orthodox Church on December 30th, 1738, making him the first known Orthodox convert in the Americas. I recently heard a homily in which the priest explained that it was Ludwell being introduced to and reading church history that interested him in Orthodoxy. I can relate. Back in Virginia, Philip immersed himself in civic affairs, serving as speaker in the House of Burgesses and the Royal Governor's Council, and at one point helping to commission a young George Washington as a colonel in the Virginia militia. Philip took a risk with Orthodoxy since it was illegal to convert away from Anglicanism. Therefore, he practiced his faith in secrecy and solitude, although Philip was sent back to Virginia with a reserve of the gifts, the precious body and blood of Christ, inspiring some to hypothesize that he may have been ordained a subdeacon. Philip's curiosity about Orthodoxy could have been a trap of the English, so it was also a risk for Father Stephen Ivanovsky, the priest who served at the London parish. But fortunately for Philip, his three daughters, who were eventually chrismated in 1762, and for all of us, the priest seemingly sensed Philip's sincerity in seeking the true faith and got the blessing of the Synod of Moscow to bring him into Holy Orthodoxy. It's thought that there may have even been a chapel on the Green Spring property, since a mystery building facing due east was discovered there during archaeological excavations and whose purpose and use was never ascertained. Given Ludwell's demonstrated Orthodox Christian piety, writes scholar Nicholas Chapman, it's possible this could be the first Orthodox chapel in North America. It's also postulated that in Philip's Williamsburg home there may have been an Orthodox chapel, since the basement contains an apse-like indentation facing east, an element that probably undermines the structural integrity of the building. Furthermore, there's newspaper documentation of visitors from Lebanon, Syria, and Greece to the Williamsburg area during these years, so some further postulate there may have been Orthodox services held in Ludwell's home. We don't know, but what we do know for sure is that Philip translated into English a catechism, 3 liturgical services, prayers, and other texts. Also blessed by the Holy Synod of Russia was the translation of St. Peter Mogila's Confession, a work produced in reaction to the efforts of the Jesuits and Western reformers in the Polish-dominated areas of Old Rus. Philip died in 1767, well before the War for American Independence began, before the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom disestablished the Church of England, and before the Unitarian, Transcendental, Rationalist, and Dispensational philosophies forced their way down south over the following century.